In this nugget, we're going to cover the enterprise level options for exposing storage over the network by highlighting the differences between Fibre Channel and iSCSI, and then we'll jump into the virtual lab and look at the process for configuring iSCSI storage. There are quite a few options for exposing our storage over the network, but these are the two big ones that have really dominated the landscape over the years. Fibre Channel SANs are usually implemented by enterprise-level organizations with high performance requirements, as well as the budget and manpower to implement and support it. They require their own dedicated network with specialized hardware, Fibre Channel SANs, high-performance HBAs, host bus adapters, but, of course, the plus side is that they have their own dedicated network, so all that storage traffic is isolated on to that high-performance network. Fibre Channel SANs can transmit data without dropping packets, and they support higher bandwidth rates. But of course, you're paying out the wazoo for all of that incredible performance. Not only from the hardware side, all of that hardware is expensive, but also on the management side. You need the people and the expertise to implement and manage that network. iSCSI, on the other hand, can accomplish the same thing, but it's far more accessible, plus it's easy and inexpensive to implement. The trade-off, of course, is performance, and that's because it doesn't require its own dedicated network, so all of that storage traffic lives on our primary network. Here's how this works. The first thing we do is configure an iSCSI target, and think of an iSCSI target as the physical storage device itself, or the device that's hosting our physical storage. Then we also have iSCSI initiators. Think of these as clients, and clients in this case are usually other servers. But all iSCSI does is emulate the connection to that physical device to virtualize it and expose it over the network. These initiators communicate with targets by sending iSCSI commands over an IP network to address the logical unit numbers, which you can think of as the individual devices within our iSCSI targets. Let's take a look at how all this works with an example using our virtual lab. Here we are on FS1 NUG. We're going to create an iSCSI target on top of the storage spaces volume that we created in a previous nugget. I renamed it to data and added a couple of directories in here. And what we're going to do is carve out a little space as a virtual hard disk, and that will be our iSCSI target. From there, we'll head over to FS2 NUG, which will be our iSCSI initiator and act as the client for the storage that we're going to expose through this machine, FS1 NUG. Now, we're going to do all this through Server Manager, so let's bring it up here, and you'll find iSCSI in File Storage Services. If it's not there, which it isn't by default, there is a role that we need to install. So let's go up to Manage here, Add Roles and Features. We'll fly through this wizard until we get to Server Roles. Underneath File and Storage Services, there it is right here. We want to turn this into an iSCSI target server. We'll add the features here, and then next, and install. A minute or so later, and that's done, and you will see iSCSI is now an option here in Server Manager under File and Storage Services. So the first thing we need to create here is an iSCSI virtual disk that we will then turn into an iSCSI target. So at the top here, we can drop down tasks, or you can click that link there to create a new iSCSI virtual disk. So our server here is FS1 NUG, and we could select a volume, but we're actually going to choose a custom path here, and we'll browse into that disks directory that I created on our F drive. There it is. So that's going to be our folder. We'll hit next and give this a name. We'll give it the name iSCSI data.vhdx and hit next. Here's where we specify the size. I'll call this 100 gigabytes. We also have some options here for our VHDX, fixed, dynamic, or differencing. We'll cover these more when we get into Hyper-V and work a little closer with these VHDXs. This looks good. We'll hit next. And now we can choose to associate this with an existing iSCSI target, but we're going to create a brand new target since we don't have any available here. So we'll hit next. We'll give this the name. I'll just call this iSCSI target for lack of a better name there. We'll hit next, and now we need to specify what initiators will have access to this virtual disk. So if we hit add here, we can enter in our IQN directly, DNS, IP, or MAC address, or you can query Active Directory here to pull out the IQN automatically. So let's do that. FS2 NUG will be the initiator. We can check names here just to resolve that. Perfect. Everything looks good. We'll hit OK there, and it's going and querying for that IQN, which we will pull in and enter in here as the value. Perfect. So that looks good. We can hit next here. You have some additional authentication options that we'll ignore, and that's it. We've created a virtual disk and set up a target in one go. And there's the result. Up top here is our virtual disk, and down at the bottom is our iSCSI target. You can see nothing is currently connected to it. If we head back into File Explorer, there is the VHDX that's going to be hosting all of this storage. So now what we need to do is head over to FS2 NUG. From the desktop of FS2 NUG, Let's head into Server Manager, and there's nothing we need to install on this machine as the iSCSI initiator service is already installed, but it is not running by default. Now, one thing you can do is you could start the service outside here, or you could just fire up the iSCSI initiator from the Tools menu, and it'll prompt us to do just that. Once that service is started, we'll get the initiator dialog to pop up here, and all we need to do is specify our target server, which is FS1NUG. We can hit Quick Connect here, and if we've configured everything correctly, the IQN will pop up, and you can see that we successfully connected because we allowed this initiator access to that target in our previous wizard. So we can hit Done here, and the only other thing we need to do then is head over here to Volumes and Devices and hit Auto Configure. That device will now look like it's just another disk on this machine, even though it's a virtual disk living on our iSCSI target. In fact, if we head back into Server Manager here, File and Storage Services and Disks, we can see that disk is ready to go. Notice the bus type there is iSCSI. So now we could bring it online and carve up a new volume out of that available storage. So I'll fly through the wizard here and accept all of the defaults along the way. With that done, that disk will now look like local storage on this machine. There's our new volume. We can start doing stuff inside of here, making folders and files and everything else, as this iSCSI initiator is sending those SCSI commands over the IP network to that iSCSI target. If we head back over to that iSCSI target on FS1NUG, we can now see that we are connected. We can also go to the properties of this target, head down to connections, and actually see those connections to this target. In this CBT Nugget, we highlighted the differences between Fiber Channel and iSCSI storage, and we also took a look at how to configure iSCSI targets and initiators to expose local storage over the network. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.